let's move on then and talk about three teams next who we've given Shubh technically of this task of picking certain players which will fit them well. We'll start with Delhi Capitals. The man is a big fan of that team, Shubh, that is. What do they need? Because Som told me something crazy and we were just like in awe when he said that. If Ben Stokes gets purchased by Delhi Capitals and then basically comes in for Mitch Marsh, look at that 5. You have Warner, you have Shaw, you have Stokes, you have Pant, and you have Powell. Shubh, you're telling me you won't be energetic, excited as a DC fan? Surely you must be thinking already, yeah, we won.
Dude, I'm a realistic guy, not an RCB fan. So yeah, it is too good to be true actually, because if Stokes comes in, we tick multiple boxes. Because first of all, we have a gun player, and on top of that, we will actually be able to solve our seam bowling all rounder slot as well, which Delhi tried to fill in with Shardul Thakur, but I mean, again, it was never going to happen. So just to stay realistic, I think Delhi side this year, the one slot that they want to fill is to fetch an Indian seam bowling all-rounder, which is not going to happen because there are not many options available at all. So I think they will have to just find a way to circumvent that void. But the players that they can buy, I feel their options. They would be looking to creating backup options, a backup for David Warner because he is not going to stick around for long. A backup for Mitchell Marsh for sure because he is currently skipping the whole BVL season due to an injury, and he's an injury-prone guy anyway. So a backup for him. We will also want a backup for Krishabh Pant, which can only be solved by gaining an Indian wicket keeper, which is where I feel KS Bharat. I feel if he was still in the squad, Delhi wouldn't have to bother about that, about creating that one backup option at least. So on that regard, Delhi's options are KS Bharat again and Jagatishan, who is having a stellar white ball season in domestic cricket and when you come to replacing Mitchell Marsh, I think there are two very good options, Travis Head and Sikandar Raza as backup options because they can bowl as well, and Delhi will be playing 7 games in Firozshah Kotla, which has the deadest pitch in the country. So if you get Sikandar Raza, for example, you will have Akshar Patel, you will have Kuldeep, and you will also have a off spinner to target the opposition left-handers. So Sikandar Raza and Travis Head, I think both will be on Delhi's radar because we all know Ponting is a big fan of Sikandar Raza. He sent him that clip during the World Cup, and Travis Head is an Australian for sure. Who can they get in to back up David Warner? There are multiple options: Phil Salt, Henrik Klassen, Tom Banton. I don't know what Tom Banton is doing in England. I mean, how his domestic season is going on. But yeah, these are three prime slots that three prime backup options that Delhi would like to create in this auction, and these are the names. And also Daniel Sams could be a handy pick for them once again. I'm not a massive fan of Sams, but again he just fits into so many teams right now.
Yeah, so and me chuckling away because we know the inside joke. Dan, I'll come to you next, and then we'll get Som's chat. Look at what Delhi have in terms of their budget: 19.45 CR. We obviously relishing the prospect of Stokes joining them and all of that. But what about? I mean, they've just released 4 players. If you look at it, Ashwin Hebbar, which is Crickletic's favorite son, by the way. Tim Seifert, KS Bharat, and I think one more name, Mandeep Singh. So what do they need? What is pretty much the doctor wanting from Delhi?
I think that they also were quite astute in freeing up a lot of budget by getting rid of the Lord, Shardul Thakur, as well. And perhaps, I mean, you look at their overseas players, I'm going to be really honest with you, is that I think that Warner and Nokia are probably the only two who are guaranteed starters. And Warner, we know now, is in the autumn of his career, if not the winter. and obviously now he's struggling in Test cricket of late. Perhaps I don't think he's the player he was at his peak. The question is that what do you do with the other two overseas slots that Delhi have got? Does freeing up a Thakur allow them to attack a Stokes or a Sam Curran more effectively? Does it also enable them to get, in theory at least, a better replacement for less money from the overseas market, such as a Jason Holder or something for maybe 5, 6, 7, rather than a Thakur for 10.75, and then you can use the money somewhere else to strengthen. I'm going to be honest. I'm not hugely sold on the Delhi batting. Prithvi Shaw is someone who I think is superb and should be featuring more in the national squad. But Pant at 16 crore has not played like a 16 crore player in the last couple of years. And Rovman Powell, I watched him play a lot actually. And look, this guy's got the shots, he's got the power, but he has this propensity to dot up a lot at the start of his innings, and what I call voluntary dots, if that makes sense. A lot of forward defensives and pushes and things like that, and likes to take his time to get set. I'm not sold on Mitchell Marsh, and then that's their batting basically. So for me, I would look to reinforce the batting a little bit. I definitely think they'll be in the market for a pace bowling all rounder. The other player that Ponting has mentioned that he quite likes from sort of a niche perspective, if you like, Sikandar Raza was mentioned earlier, but he's also mentioned Bas de Leede, who's the Netherlands all-rounder as well. So, and de Leede is an interesting player because I think his ceiling is pretty high. Bowls fast. Certainly has a lot of work to do on his batting. And I think it would really struggle in the IPL level. Not necessarily from a stability perspective, but he just doesn't have the shots, the power, the intent right now. And that would, I think that fast tracking him at the IPL auction, so the IPL level would be a little bit of a mistake. But look, what I do like is they've got good paces. Norkia, I like Zakaria, even though I think that perhaps I rate him higher than perhaps the market does. And for me, they still probably do like a real high quality wrist spinner, like an orthodox wrist spinner, if you like. And these are kind of some problems that they face, but I don't think they can solve all these problems with 19 CR and not that many spots left to fill.
Yeah, that's the whole problem, right? Because there's so many things that Delhi might need to address, but they need to factor in that budget like all the other teams do in the auction. So what I want to ask you about Delhi is your 11, because you've been, of course, stating your 11s for the other teams. What does your Delhi 11 look like? And where do you think the weakness lies in that 11 that you're going to name?
Yeah, I mean, so Shubh mentioned a few names. I'm instead of looking for Warner's replacement, I would actually want Pant to open with Shaw. Because let's not forget, Pant was being unselfish by choosing to bat in the middle order. I mean, as a captain, he can very well opt to open, and now given his Indian T20 career seems a little bit of a jeopardy. He's expressed that he would want to open, so I think he would be on the same page. So if he is able to convince Ponting, maybe they can open with Shaw and Pant. Warner doesn't have a lot to lose if he bats at 3. Then 4 can be Mitchell Marsh, or even if they can get Cam Green. Then Sarfaraz, Powell to follow. They don't need a backup keeper because Sarfaraz is keeping these days, so there is your keeping option. Then Aksar at 7. Then depending on the wicket, either of Lalit Yadav or Chetan Sakaria at 8, Kuldeep, Khalil and Nokia to wrap that up.
All bowlers. And that is why I feel we need that Daniel Sam fits in.
I don't know, Shubh's Daniel Sam's obsession, but it's quite clear.
Bro, it just fits in. I can't help it. It just fits in.
Aksar at 7 and Lalit at 8 is, this is the best that a lot of other teams can also muster. It's not like other teams are have really great options at 7 and 8.
Yeah, I mean, look, essentially,
the league is still spread thin in terms of local talent, to be very honest.
I don't know. JSW seem like they are competent to get the job done. They have some key scouts doing the business there. So hopefully, from the key pointing perspective, they get the players that Shubh, Dan, and Som have mentioned.